Many people wonder that if Indian empires and kingdoms were so powerful, why did they fall to the invaders? Specifically the Islamic invaders. Some speculate that it was because of betrayals of locals. Others speculate that it was because of infighting, or that they caught us at the wrong time. But the real reason was that they kept attacking and they kept attacking and they kept attacking. It was like we were facing a horde of zombies. They kept attacking. We defeated them for 400 years, destroyed their armies, absolutely terrified them. And yet, generation after generation, dynasty after dynasty, ethnicity after ethnicity, they kept attacking. I mean, it began almost a generation or two after the founding of the Rashidun Caliphate, which is the first caliphate by the Prophet. Even before they had conquered Persia or Iran, they had made sea raids in Thane, Bharuch, and Debal, which is modern day Karachi. They were each beaten back, but it set the precedent. The first caliphate managed to conquer all of Persia while they recovered from centuries of conflict with the Eastern Roman Empire or Byzantium. But before they could launch any campaigns into India on land, they were overthrown by the next caliphate. The caliphate was then able to conquer most of the Indian districts and kingdoms west of Indus. Take the kingdom that was ruling over Sindh, led by Muhammad bin Qasim. But then they stopped. Not because they wanted to stop, but because they were stopped. The frontier kingdoms, in particular the Gujarapatiharas and the later Rajputs, fought back. The Arabs write about these Indian kings and say that they're the most formidable warriors they had ever met. Even in the frontier states present in modern day Pakistan, the resistance was so fierce that they couldn't hold on to these lands for too long and had to resort to taking tribute. The Umayyad Caliphate had managed to conquer Sindh by 723 AD, and using that as a launchpad, they invaded further in, going all the way to Ujjain, only to be pushed back by Nagarbhatta I and Bappa Rawal by 725 AD. Over the course of the next 18 years, they would launch many attacks into India, holding cities in Rajasthan for brief periods, only to lose them quickly after. By 750, another caliphate called the Abbasid Caliphate had taken over. They had to abandon Sindh, and Sindh finally saw local rule again. Most Indian Western kingdoms were free from their rule soon after. The Abbasid Caliphate would hold on to some kingdoms for brief periods in western frontiers, but they never managed to go further into India than Kutch, because they would be repelled each time, despite their unrelenting effort. Arab dominion in India only ended up lasting into two domains of Multan and Mansura. Eventually, Turkic tribes would take over Kabul and Ghazni, and that would begin their next phase of the invasions. They were not here for conquest like Arabs had been, at least not at first. They were here to raid. Their raids weakened Indian kingdoms over the centuries, causing the fall of the Gujarapatiharas and the Hindu Shahis of the Peshawar region. They kept raiding and they didn't try to conquer until Muhammad of Ghazni. Around early 11th century, he came into the conflict with the Hindu Shahi of Afghanistan and he defeated them. This caused the northwestern frontiers of India to fall into the hands of the Turks. They used this as a base to raid deeper into India. According to Al-Burani, their raids caused so much destruction in India that the northwestern part of India lost its prosperity for a long time to come. Hindu sages retreated from these kingdoms into places they couldn't attack, like Banaras or Kashmir, ironically. And while he raided many temples and attacked and stole from them, none were as iconic as the Somnath temple of Gujarat. It was an extremely revered temple of the time. I mean, it still is, but it was more significant at the time. It held vast amount of gold within it. Gold that he stole as he destroyed the temple and the shivling within. He also happened to destroy the last of Gujarapatiharas. Now, you also have to understand that temples back then worked also as banks, not just as places of worship and places people learned, but also as banks, which is why so many of them held on to so much gold. They handed out loans, kept people gold safe, because most invaders would not dare attack a temple, while most Indian invaders, and even donated some of their profits out to the poor. When so many of the important temples of India were destroyed by the invaders, not only did it affect the social fabric of India, it also affected the economic outlook. I mean, can you imagine if almost all of your major banks in your country fell tomorrow? Your country would go into a recession. It made it so that it was nearly impossible for large kingdoms to form, and yet the Rajputs kept trying to do it. The Chauhans of Sambar or the Chauhans of Ajmer were the chief among them. Chauhans were a clan with many small kingdoms throughout northern India, but none of them was more significant than this one. Under Prithviraj Chauhan, it held territories that ranged from Thar Desert to Delhi, which had been constructed by the Tomars by this point, and all the way down to the Malwa plateau. They had become the most powerful frontier state by that point. Muhammad of Ghor, or let me read this right, Muiz al-Din Muhammad, made many attempts to try and conquer North Indian Kingdom from his base in Afghanistan and Western Punjab. At first, he got defeated by the Chalukyas in Gujarat, then by a different Rajput confederacy, and then by Prithviraj Chauhan. All these Indian kings decided to spare this invader, despite at least one of them being known to have caught him. Why? We really have no clue. Maybe it was a sort of a false bravado honor kind of a thing, or maybe they underestimated him, or maybe he paid tribute for his life. We really aren't too sure about this one. But just like his predecessors, Muhammad Ghori kept attacking. He attacked the Chauhans in the second battle of Tehran in 1192 and he won. This time it was because he brought an army larger than anyone had ever seen in this area, with a lot of vassals and generals behind them. There is a popular myth that goes on that Prithviraj Chauhan's Rajput rivals betrayed him and sided with Muhammad Ghori in the second battle. But that is actually untrue. The Rajput kingdoms kept fighting with each other to gain supremacy in northwestern India, but they never really allied with the invaders. At the end of this battle, Prithviraj was captured and he was executed. Many believe that it was particularly brutal. After this point, Ghori pulled a Nat 20 and steamrolled all the way to Bengal without losing a single battle. He had conquered North India in one lifetime. So why did India fall to these invaders? Indian kings were busy playing the Game of Thrones, trying to gain another inch of land to try and gain supremacy over their neighbors. It was a rare sight for Indian kings to come together to defeat anyone, and that is where we were weak. Every time a group of invaders stood at the gates of the subcontinent, they arrived united, and they were tenacious, attacking over and over again, eventually winning when there was instability in the region, most likely caused by them. And this disunity is not a weakness that us Indians as an ethnicity have baked into us. It's a land and it's plenty that is found here that makes us be divided. You will see how even the invaders change their tunes and become disunited within one generation of being here. How even their once better organized empires turn into shit shows. I mean, there is no better example for this other than the fact that even Muslims have a caste system in India. Muhammad Ghori died in 1202, 10 years after Prithviraj Chauhan, and his dynasty died with him, to be followed by the Mamluk dynasty. We will talk about the next two dynasties of Delhi Sultanate in the next video. See you next time.